It's interesting because, as I kind of alluded to, there's been so many times where we have experienced, and I think I could probably speak for you, but you can speak for yourself, the highest of highs vocationally in DPS and 100% the lowest of lows.
Yeah.
What keeps me going at the end of the day when I look at the art is like, we are doing this because we feel like we're supposed to.
Yeah.
And Jesus is just that beautiful. There's no story like this, man. If the story of Jesus were a work of fiction, it would still be the greatest story ever told.
Yeah.
And we're betting everything that it's not fiction, that it's real, that this carpenter, rabbi, Jesus walked on this planet. And today, whether we like it or not, in 2024, if you want to reach people specifically in the United States of America, the UK, Australia, and I think across even Spanish-speaking countries, Portuguese-speaking countries, the primary way you will reach people is online.
Yeah.
And there's not a lot of people I think would argue against it. And so the onus is on us, followers of the way, to showcase it with a beauty and a consistency that I think not everyone is equipped to do.
Yeah.
Which is why we're here.
What we get to do every single day is a true blessing. It really is. Like we always communicate this to our churches. It's not just about the art. It really isn't. At the end of the day, it's about telling the most beautiful story, Jesus. And we get to do that. We get to do that like, in a creative way. Yeah, it's truly special. Una vez en Barcelona, 2014, y otra vez en Francia, 2021.
Did you see it for Barca all three times?
No, Barca in 2014. 2014, 2016. Barca 2016 and PSG Champions League 2021.
We got to go see him in the MLS together.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
But it'd be it's like $800 a ticket to watch Inter Miami play.
No matter what?
No
like
matter
where
what.
the seats are?
Nah, I don't know. Airplane mode.
So you've seen him play 3 times?
Twice, actually.
I thought you said 3.
I said 3. I was lying.
It's like this morning.
I was a liar.
What was the lie about the drive this morning?
How many times did you listen to a podcast while you were walking? None. Oh wait, yeah, 35% of the time.
Oh my gosh. Should we start with thankfulness?
Let's do it.
¿Quieres ir?
Yeah.
¿Por qué estás agradecido hoy?
Well, I'm thankful to be here. This is so exciting and get to do the pod with you. Yeah, it's exciting to be here in San Diego with the crew. Beautiful loft, beautiful space. Had 3 cups of coffee today, so I still feel it, but I'm thankful to be here. Let's go.
Eres mejor. Today,
¿Tú?
I'm really grateful. Gracias. I'm really grateful that I got to celebrate my dad's 70th birthday. My dad is 70, which is crazy. That makes me feel old.
Pastor Jerry, he's a good man.
He's a great man, and he's taught me so much. And it feels like a rite of passage for my father to be 70. It really does. I have a tattoo right here that talks about being better at 70, and so it always now makes me think instantly of my dad and how he is 70 and how
he's such a good-looking 7-year-old.
Actually, one of my buddies, Trevor, if you're watching this, he DM'd me after I posted the little story of my dad on Instagram. And he's like, your dad is 70? He looks amazing. So also, Dad, shout out to you.
Pastor
you look
Jerry.
amazing for 70.
Happy 70th.
Gracias. Okay, so I wanted to ask, and I'm excited about this. You knew I was going to ask it, but it was February of 2020.
Yes.
We had been friends for a long time, which we'll get into in a minute. But we met at The Boy and the Bear in Redondo Beach.
One of my favorite coffee shops.
It is.
For a long time, you thought it was in Orange County.
I
And he would always pitch it, but it's in Redondo Beach.
Yeah.
Their salted caramel latte is so delicious. Also, it's their cold brew. But yeah, we met in 2020 before the pandemic.
We did. Or at least before it had proliferated in the U.S.
Yeah. And you came with an idea. What was that idea?
So don't throw me back. Well, obviously, for you and I, do you remember the day of the week or the date at all?
It was during the week. It had to. I think we went back and looked at the date, but it was February 16th or something like that.
And did you have your BMW at the time?
I did, and you took a picture. Yeah.
Yeah, you can go back.
Yeah. But you came with the idea to start Divine Persuasion.
Yeah.
And I thought it was a brilliant idea.
Thanks, bro. You still think it's brilliant?
Such a good idea. I thought it was a brilliant idea.
No longer.
I don't know now. But yeah, and I remember immediately saying yeah, dude, let's do it. Such a brilliant idea. Who thought about it first?
I do remember, and I think this has been a through line of our friendship. Most of the time, if I come to you with an idea, you're like, let's do it.
Yeah, I think there's been some wild ones that we were like, yo, we shouldn't have done that. But this one's worked out.
Okay, so now fast forward 4 years, and we're in downtown San Diego. Actually, this loft is where I proposed to my wife, Amy, I love you. And also Matt, our producer, got married here to Esme, who was our other co-founder, COO. Esme, shout out.
Shout out, Ez.
Here in the Luce Loft is where we're filming. 4 years later, do you still feel like... I guess I already know the answer, so I'm going to change my question. Now 4 years into DPS, how is it different from the idea that we had when I approached you at the Boy and Bear, not in Orange County, but in Redondo Beach?
Yeah, I think our heart is still the same, but our offerings and our services have changed. I used to think that a sermon quote or a quote graphic posted on Monday was the most important design asset that a church could have, and that has changed a lot. I think about a holistic general design for churches and how we help brand their identity. But I think the heart behind DPS hasn't changed. I think we've had iterations and versions, and we've gotten better. But the heart's still the same. Tell the most beautiful story, Jesus. And so, yeah.
That's great. Yeah, it's funny. I feel like I'm always tempted, because most of our audience would be Christians and churchgoers, to jokingly say amen.
Amen. Good word.
Gloria a Dios.
Gloria a Dios,
that's
hermano.
Good. That's good.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah.
God bless you if you do that at church. Wow, that sounded really condescending. I did not mean it to be. Next subject matter. We met in Brazil, but we had kind of previously met for 2 minutes in a parking lot of a church
in Ventura. Yeah.
But you've also lived in Brazil how many separate times for multiple years now?
I think it's been collectively, I think I've lived in Brazil for 5 years, but I've lived there multiple different times, 4 different times. And when you met me when we met in Brazil, we met in Ventura, but when we met in Brazil was it 2012, a couple months before you were going to get married. That's how I remember
Maybe it was
it.
2013 then.
2013, yes. And I remember that youth pastor Jake. And I was an intern, right, in Brazil at that time. And I was the best English speaker because I'm American.
Yes.
In Brazil, so they chose me to be the translator.
Yeah.
And it was the best time. I just loved hanging with y'all. I'm finally, my people are in Brazil. I've been stuck in Brazil with Brazilians in a good way, obviously, for the last year of being there, but it was so much fun. I remember you had 30 acai bowls in the matter of a week and a half because you were so obsessed with acai. Acai! And churrasco, you loved steak.
Yes.
It was so much fun. And you wanted to go to the beach every day, but we had church duties. You were there on a mission trip. You're when can we go to the beach?
Just wanted to surf, man.
Yeah.
It was the best.
So so much fun.
Do you remember? I don't remember, but it was a few days into the trip. We were there for 10 days, and I did have, I think, 20 or 30 acai bowls. Eu quiero acai agora.
Yeah.
I want it now. I want it all. Anyway, I digress. But we had already been hanging out for like 3 or 4 days, and I just assumed you were Brazilian. Do you remember this?
I do, yeah.
And you just spoke great Spanish. I mean, well, you actually speak 3 languages, but you spoke great English. And as we were talking, we're at the orphanage that we were serving. I remember the little girl, that little blonde girl was calling me Cara de lixo.
Yeah.
And I thought it was something sweet or whatever.
No.
And then you ended up telling me, like, do you want to know what that means? I'm like, yeah.
Trash face.
Trash face.
Cara de lixo.
And then that's when I was like, bro, how do you speak such good English? You're like, bro, I'm
American. I don't know why like it took that long to explain that or say that, but
yeah. But
just the humble guy that I am, you know.
And then actually Amy was on that trip.
She was.
And as you mentioned, we were engaged, and then we were at a mall. And you were talking about doing a second year. I'm like, bro, just come to SD.
Yeah. So actually, I had already planned to go to Ventura, and you persuaded me, divine persuasion, to come to SD, which ended up being such a, like probably one of the best decisions, or a God decision, you know, right, at the right time. Because then ended up interning at City Church San Diego, where you previously were a minister, youth pastor. As you like to say, retired youth pastor over here.
Yeah.
And then here we are, you know, 10 years, 12 years later, started a company together, have worked on like so many different projects for so many different people. And yeah, it's been awesome. You were one of the groomsmen at my wedding, which was so much fun.
Such a fun wedding.
And I love San Diego.
It is the greatest weather in the world. I was just talking about this a couple of days ago, but now that I live in the Phoenix area, and I love the desert, shout out to any Phoenicians, as they call themselves, although I'm so far in the West Valley. I don't know if I'm allowed to call myself that, but I will. Coming back here, I feel like an old man who talks about the weather. It's like 70 degrees in San Diego.
We're wearing sweat. We're matching.
Yeah, we are.
Yeah, we haven't pointed that out yet.
We're just like, haven't noticed.
We're like so in sync spiritually that we got to, I picked you up and we were wearing the same thing. Absolutely. It was not planned.
It was not. Okay, I'm going to pull up my questions because I got some goodies for you. So, actually, I want to go back to Brazil really quick. You've lived there for a total of 5 years.
Yes.
You married a Brazilian.
Yes.
Shout out to your wife.
Shout out G, love you.
G, he loves you, he promises. And you have 2 girls.
Yes.
And your second born was born in Brazil, and that was intentional.
That was intentional. So my firstborn was my firstborn, of course. She was born. Stella was born here, 2020, and my wife's family couldn't. They couldn't come to America because you need a visa, and so we wanted to spend some time, and so it was intentional. We went 2 years ago. We were there, lived there, had the baby. And so she has dual citizenship, which is like kind of a cool little flex for a 1-year-old. So yeah, like so special. Yeah.
It's the best. How did you fall in love with making art? And I'm going to make you tell the story about being a pastor's kid in South Bay, Los Angeles, and getting arrested for doing graffiti. But first, how did you fall in love with making art?
Well, as long as I can remember now. Well, I always make the joke, and you always laugh at me for making this joke while we're on with clients. But I always like to say that in 3rd grade, I got the best artist award, and I haven't got an award since then. You know, still waiting for a matured artist award. But my mom tells me that as long as like I was always drawing something, or and it actually, like, my real, what I can remember is in 7th or 8th grade, I started hanging out with some friends, and they used to do graffiti. And so then I started just like drawing graffiti. And that's what really, in my opinion, or what I can look back, really started my journey within creativity. Doing graffiti and stuff like that. I was like a freshman in high school, and I was like, don't do this, but I was like running around the streets of like Torrance and Harbor City, which is where I grew up at in LA, and just doing like random graffiti. And you always like to point this story out of me.
It's a great story.
Of me being a 16-year-old pastor's kid and getting it's
wait, tell the
so
whole story.
funny to even say.
Actually, when we first started the studio, we did not know what we were doing. We still kind of know. So if you are a client, we kind of know. If you want to be a client, we know it all. We know everything. We have all the answers. But when we first started the studio, I don't know why, but we would do introductions, and I would make Josh tell every pastor we met with that he got arrested in high school for doing graffiti.
Yeah, I always put him on the spot. Yeah,
it's like nothing like someone who was born and raised in the church to think like a cool testimony story of wayward living.
Yeah, like I was just, heading in a bad direction. God really found me at my worst.
But please tell the story from the beginning.
Yeah, well, long story short, I was out doing graffiti on a Tuesday night. It was the nighttime, obviously, but I was a minor, and so I had already done the graffiti piece, so I didn't get caught in the act.
Do you remember what it was that you had tagged?
It was Vice. So back then, my tagging name was Vice, VYSE, and I used to do a bunch of iterations of it, like write vice versa and stuff like that. Now my tag name is Hova. Shout out Hova. I had done the piece, a buddy of mine and myself, and then we were skating back home, and cops just stopped us, and so we had paint on our hands and cans rattling in our backpack and tagging stickers. So there wasn't much that I no, I wasn't tagging, And so I pretty much I was honest with the cop, and I was like, yeah, I was tagging, I'm not gonna lie to you. And he kind of pressured me and said, hey, if you're honest with me, then we'll go easy on you, right? And so the fear of the Lord right there it came. And so, yeah, I told them, hey, I was tagging and I'm coming back from it. And here's all the evidence in my backpack. And so since I was a minor, they took me back to my parents' house and they put me in the cop car. They handcuffed me it was like a movie. And they called my mom, and my mom came downstairs, and it was actually, it's a funny story, but it was sad at the same time.
Yeah.
Because she was she just started bawling, crying.
No.
Yeah. And yeah, it was a very shocking moment for me. And after that day, I actually stopped doing it illegally. I tried my best to find legal spots and stuff like that, and do it for fun. And yeah.
How does it work for it to be legal?
You just got to have permission pretty much from
the owner of the building?
Yeah, the owner of the building. And there's actual spots that you can go to and do it.
Do you have any old photos of any Vice tags?
I think so, yeah.
Matt, can we show some of those?
Yeah, I have one.
Let's go.
I have one, yeah.
Shout out to Matt, our producer.
Yeah, I have one. I'll send it to Matt.
What about some of your Hova designs?
Oh, I have a ton of those.
Okay. Matt, let's throw some of the Hova ones in too.
Yeah, that'll be
fun. And didn't you and Rodrigo, shout out to you, our creative director.
Yeah.
You guys did a couple in...
Yeah, in Barcelona.
In Barca?
Yeah, we did one in Barca. We've done some in Floripa as well. It's kind of different in Brazil than it is here. A lot in South America or in Brazil, graffiti or art is, I could say, a lot more welcoming. And so, yeah, we did a couple stuff down there for fun.
Growing up, did you have any... would you call it a graffiti artist or just an artist?
Yeah.
Who would you have been inspired by?
Revoke, Saber, just really old timers, really famous ones. And then in and around our neighborhood, there was just really famous graffiti artists that we looked up to. But yeah, I don't want to condone it, go out and do graffiti because it's, yeah, I don't know.
How did that? Go ahead. But
yeah, that eventually led into me having an eye or a perspective, or just wanting to look towards design. And then from there, when I was a church intern in Brazil, one of the ministries that we could choose to be an intern specifically at or serve in was media or design for youth ministry. And so that's where I went. I chose that, and that's the first time, 2012, that I actually opened up Photoshop for the first time. And that's kind of where my journey within graphic design like really started. And here I am, now years later.
You started with graffiti, and then it became graphic design in 2012.
Yeah.
When did you feel like it was going to become a career for you, or did it not really feel like that until? So you were a youth pastor as well in between the time, but when did you feel like, okay, this is going to be something I do for my vocation?
I'd say like 1 or 2 years into us doing DPS. Cause then that's where you came and you were like, yo, we need you to do this like full time. And we're going to pay you to do it full time. And so I was like, yo, let's go. Like I can get paid for doing, graphic design. Before that, I had gotten paid to like do a website or like do a brand identity, but it was all like a side hustle. It wasn't my main source of income. And actually, when I was a youth pastor, I also gave me the title of creative director because I'll do sermon series for my youth ministry. But it really wasn't creative directing. But like as a youth pastor, not having like a ton of resources or, the resources that we have now in the Christian creative space, or even in the creative space, like back in the days, it was like so difficult to like find mock-ups and like textures and like everything that is available for us now. I just would create all of that for our youth ministry. And that right there, it helped solidify like the graphic design side, right? And that was a lot of fun because then I started to do merch designs and all that. And then eventually from being a youth pastor, I became a creative director. I got hired as an associate pastor / creative director at my parents' church. And then that's right after that, that's when we started the studio.
Okay, I was going to ask these two questions a little bit later, but I have two good questions specifically around design and art.
Yeah.
Where would you say that you draw your artistic inspiration from? And if it's Jesus and your wife, go ahead and throw them out there, but give me something a little bit more.
Those are given. Shout out G. Man, I feel like I find it everywhere, and that's like such, I don't know, I find it everywhere in everything that I do. I feel like my mind is always searching for creativity or for design or for, and it can be in anything for me. It can be in architecture, in cars, in photography, in film, in music. I feel like I search for it and I crave it all the time. It's just a part of what I do, what I see, what I live. So like on a practical level, I find it in like my favorite magazines, on some of my favorite websites. Obviously, like the most famous one's Pinterest, right? Who doesn't have a Pinterest board or a bunch of Pinterest boards? But a lot of inspiration comes from that. Some of my favorite brands, clothing brands. I find inspiration in multiple different places or avenues or arenas.
Something that I really admire about you as a creative, and I think is a through line to the first few projects we ever did together in youth ministry, even up to this day, I think your creative taste is a 10 out of 10. Not to say that you don't have other 10 out of 10 iterations, but whenever you send in our Slack channel any like YouTube random thing, it's usually like Japanese or Spanish inspired, something I could have never found, some musical conglomeration, or a lot of the times I don't even know what websites I could remember off the top of my head, but you'll just send some sort of mood board curated website. Do you feel like that's something that has been innate to you, or you've worked at being able to curate art? Because even DPS, what the DPS is today, whether it be our Instagram or what we give to our clients or the way we serve our artists, most of the way it's curated is through kind of your brain power or through the systems we built around your brain power. So I'm curious, speaking directly to another creative or designer or thinker that might want to draw some inspiration, have you found that was just an innate skill you had to curate art, or is that something that has been honed in and improved as you've grown as an artist?
I would say both. I would say on one, there's I believe there's a God-given talent. But then on the other side, it's been cultivated, it's been nourished, there's been, I I've had to learn certain aspects of creativity. I've also just surrounding myself by individuals or creatives that are better than me or work in different fields. I used to think that I was a senior graphic designer, and I love it. I'm a senior graphic designer. But then at the studio, we actually brought in and hired senior graphic designers, and they were working in InDesign or Illustrator, and I was just like this Photoshop guy, and so I'm like, so bringing in other people or other creatives have helped that journey, right? But then it's been cultivated in reading books and watching documentaries and searching for inspiration. But I also believe that it's a God-given talent as well.
What is a book or a doc that you'd recommend for an artist to read or watch?
Let's see. I like a lot of graffiti documentaries, old graffiti. Banksy documentary, I love that one. I like to follow a lot of like YouTube creatives as well, sometimes it's not even graphic design artists, but like just storytellers or vloggers. I find a lot of creativity in what they do as well. Books by like Virgil. Like I have a Virgil book on my desk, and it's open. I like to joke around like, you have a coffee table book, like open it up, Jesus Christ, like open it up, read it. And I have it on my desk, and I'm like looking at the catalog of like all the Jordans that he created and the samples, and looking at the books. And so I find a lot of inspiration in that as well.
That's great. Dude, my first in-person podcast, I feel like I have to keep on readjusting in my seat.
Remember,
some of you Christians weren't allowed to watch these types of movies, but Talladega Nights with Will Ferrell, he's like, what do I do with my hands? I feel like that way with my seat. Like, what do I do with my seat? Okay, another creative question, though, and I'm super proud to ask you this one. Now at DPS, you've worked with literally hundreds of artists and ministries and churches across 7 countries and 20 states.
Wow.
And I think I had another stat, but now it has left my brain. How has that felt for you, being kind of the main creative force, both from working with artists, but even more so from talking back and forth with the person receiving the artwork?
I feel honored. Like overall, I feel honored that we have the opportunity and that people come to us for direction, for our expertise, but not just for the expertise side, but that we actually get to solve pain points that they have within their ministry or within their creative culture. Also help assist them in executing that creative vision that maybe they don't have the knowledge or the expertise or the staff to be able to curate that. So I feel honored that we've been able to do that. Like, I can add to my portfolio. I've delivered a project in Australia. Like, what a flex, But yeah, it's. I see it more than just the work side of it. Like, I spiritualize it as well. Like to me. Oh, hit the mic. To me, it goes beyond just the work side of being a creative director. It's like I get to be a part of telling the story of Jesus, and I get to serve and creative direct with a comms director in Maryland, or we just got a church in London a couple of weeks ago that we're partnering with them to launch their church. Like, it's such a beautiful opportunity that we get to do that with them. So overall, I just feel honored. I feel blessed. I feel, it's to me, it's like just so special that I'm here, and that I get to do this, and I get to do it with you. I get to do it with my homies, with such an amazing team, and it's not even. It goes beyond myself. We have an entire team. We have creative director, we have ops team, we have senior graphic designers. And so I feel honored that we get to serve the local church, but that we also have just a wonderful team that we get to do it with.
We have the best team.
The best team. Like, I'm a small portion of that. You know, I help creative direct and communicate with churches, but we have an entire team behind us that puts the art boards together, puts the mood boards together, actually does the design and deliverable assets. And you and I, we come in when we got to put out fires, and we, you know, but yeah, it's an honor. Overall, I feel super honored.
Eres mejor.
Tú eres el mejor.
Gracias. I did want to talk a little bit about our team. I was thinking about kind of all the ebbs and flows of seasons and time, but we were just talking about it with a few people today, but I think the team that we have right now is by far the most talented.
So talented.
And I think one of the things that's really cool, even happening coming up in July, is there's multiple teammates who are working out of Bali. We have a teammate working out of the Philippines. I'll be in Washington for part of the summer. You're going to be in Barcelona for part of the summer.
Yeah.
We just brought on a new senior motion designer who's in the UK.
Yeah.
Shout out, Ben. Love you, bro. And Sam just got back to Brazil from Chile.
Yep.
And so I want you to talk about what it's like to work with a global team of artists and how we have this work from anywhere culture, but yet somehow it works, no pun intended.
Yeah, sometimes it's challenging.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, it's especially with the time zones. You have someone that's like 9 hours ahead of you. But it's actually worked in our favor. You know, we have artists that, like you mentioned, we have artists that are in Barcelona. We have artists that work in Barcelona, so they work ahead of us. So it's actually a nice thing to come into the office. I'm from LA. I live in LA, so Pacific Standard Time. I come into the office 8 in the morning, and then there's already a queue of projects from like our team that live elsewhere, and yeah. So on that side, it's been awesome just to kind of have a team that's kind of like working ahead. Mm-hmm. But we just have like such a strong team. There's like a buy-in, right, to the vision, to what we're doing, and that really helps a lot. It helps a ton to have a team that's just like, yo, let's do this. We're here. When can we schedule a call, etc. But for me personally, it's been a blessing because, like you mentioned earlier, I lived in Brazil for almost 2 years. You know, just last year, and thankfully, because we're a completely remote studio, I was able to work in Brazil for a studio that is based out of Western U.S. And yeah, I worked Pacific Standard Time in Brazil, but I was able to be with my family. Our daughter was able to be born, and I think it's like such a blessing that we're a completely remote studio and we try to get together 1 or 2 times every year as a team. But I think it just helps have that work-life balance. We're also a 4-day work week, which is kind of rare in our, thank God for 3-day weekends, which is absolutely amazing. Like, we have such a, that culture, right? And so I forgot your question. I'm just ranting now. But,
I asked, I don't even remember the exact question. It's something about our team, but I love it.
But yeah, like it's been amazing to work with individuals in multiple different countries or different time zones, and I think it also brings a uniqueness to the studio that we have artists that are in different parts of the world, in different cultures with a different perspective. At times it's challenging because we're creating for a church in Seattle, and then we have an artist, from Brazil, and so they're like, what's American football? It's challenging at times, but it's also brought such a different perspective, different work ethic as well. And so we're so blessed to have, yes, team members here, and we're thankful for our team members, but to have a global team as well. Does that answer your question?
It does. And the perfect segue into my next question, global. The icon Messi himself. I want to talk a little bit about Messi, your love
Shout
for
out
football.
to the GOAT. Yes.
How you have taught me so much about football.
And you taught me so much about basketball and football, American football.
See. But you have loved Messi for the entirety of my time knowing you. I remember some of our first conversations about Barca, even in Brazil when we first started to become homies. But tell me a little bit about your perspective of what is Messi over your lifetime. And then I'll have some other questions too.
He's the greatest football player of all time. all time. Football. I mean, there's different, sports, but he's just a joy to watch. I mean, to me, he's the greatest footballer of all time,
Well,
but
it would either be him or Pele. That's the only argument?
or him or Cristiano Ronaldo.
Okay.
Of our generation, let's say of our generation.
Okay.
They're there. And I used to be a Cristiano Ronaldo hater. Like, no, Messi's the absolute best. But now, and you and I have talked about this now that we're like much older and, we now have a love in general for the sports, I think we can appreciate the fact that for the last 15 years, we've seen, or at least for me in the football space, soccer, seen two GOATs, right? Cristiano Ronaldo and Messi play at the peak of what football can be. And so, but yeah, I'm still on the Messi side, and I'm so happy that he won the World Cup last year.
Did you cry?
I cried.
I cried too.
Actually, you and I were texting.
We were.
When it was like such an emotional, scary World Cup final.
And Mbappe was insane, bro. Like I just got goosebumps thinking about it. I was watching it with my sons and my wife, and we FaceTime during it too.
Yeah. And Mbappe now going to Real Madrid. I'm a Barcelona fan. I'm a Barcelona fan. But it's going to be a sad season for Barcelona next year. Real Madrid has such an amazing team. But yeah, Messi's the best. I've watched him play twice. Once in Barcelona, the other time in Paris. So that's been awesome as well.
And you watched him play for the Argentine side, right?
No.
Oh, you did not?
No.
But I thought you had told me you had.
I don't remember.
Did he play well both times when you watched?
Yeah, so...
what is Barca Stadium called?
Camp Nou. So when I went in 2016, I believe, I can't recall yet, it was... I think they won 5-1 that day, and it was when Luis Suarez, Neymar, and Messi, the trio was called MSN, and Messi took a penalty, and this is like one of the more famous goals for them as a trio, and it's getting too specific, but he shot a pass to Suarez instead of shooting the penalty. So
no way.
Yeah, he shot a pass.
You can do that off of a PK?
You can do that as long as the ball moves forward, not backwards.
No way.
And so Suarez ran.
Matt, can you show this goal?
And scored a goal. Yeah. And so it was a vibe. I was there with one of my best friends, Ricky. You know Ricky.
Hike.
Te
amo, cara.
Te amo. And so it was a beautiful moment too. I cried that day too because I grew up watching soccer. I still watch soccer, and Barcelona for me, it was a team that it was my cousin's favorite team. So I grew up being a Barca fan because of my cousins, right? Mm-hmm. So it was a special moment, and I still watch Barcelona play. Still have a love for that team, but now I'm a Inter Miami fan. Yes. I'm hopped over from PSG to Inter Miami because Messi plays for them.
He's been playing well too. It's been fun to watch.
Yeah, it's so fun to watch.
What do you think it will take for you and I to go watch Messi play here in the U.S.? We were talking about it at the beginning of the pod, but what are the prices now? Just for like a random ticket to a game.
I think they're like 300 something, but they I don't know if they're coming to Southern California again. So we'll have to fly. Okay. Somewhere.
Because the MLS season is the opposite, right? Because obviously all the big leagues in the Champions League just finished. Shout out to Real again. They're getting Mbappe, and is it 15 or 16 Champions Leagues?
I believe it's 15.
It's insane. They're like, for those of you who don't follow football, they're like the Yankees or the Lakers. They just find somebody every year. They get all the best players.
It's embarrassing how good they are.
Yeah, it's the best.
And it's sad as a Barcelona fan because it's their main rival. So it's. I told you this already, but it's gonna be a tough season for us.
It is. I know.
Barcelona
I know.
fans.
And I love Real, so it'll be fun for me. Okay, I have one more global football or soccer question for you. Obviously, I'm a big U.S. Not that anyone else would know this, but I'm a big U.S. men's national team fan.
Yep.
What would your guess be at how we'll fare when the World Cup comes here in 2026? Because you follow football so much deeper than I do. Like, you could name substitutes on most of the Premier League and Bundesliga and La Liga roster. So, what would you say would be the best case scenario for this U.S. team? Obviously, there's still a lot to be figured out. There's Copa America coming up this summer.
Did you watch the game like 2 days ago against Colombia?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, let's pray that things change.
Yes.
And I don't know. I feel like they need to change the manager.
Greg Berhalter.
Yeah.
Shout
I
out
think
to him.
he's awesome.
He is.
And he's been there for
And he's
a
done
long,
so much
yeah,
for U.S. soccer.
But I don't know.
Something was off. That was an embarrassment.
Yeah. But I hope
it was on U.S. soil.
Yeah. I hope they do well. So when the U.S. plays in the World Cup, I'm almost all the time a U.S. fan versus a Mexico fan, which is I just like to rival my dad.
Yeah.
Shout out Mexico. Love you, Dad.
Okay, I got a few more questions for you. I'm excited about it. Let's go with, this is a really good one. You speak 3 languages.
Yes, sir.
So let me hear a little bit of...
You also speak 2 or 3.
Un poquito en español.
Sí.
Como se diz em português? Um pouco?
Un poco.
Um pouco. Eu falo um pouco português.
There you go.
But I'm just good at the accents because I listen to you.
Un pouco. But yeah, I speak 3 languages.
Eu amo por ser muito.
Yeah.
Tudo bem.
Você fala muito bem português.
Obrigado, cara.
Açaí, Pelé, Ronaldo.
Oh, what about Vinny Jr., bro?
So good.
Oh, my gosh.
I hope he wins the Ballon d'Oro.
He should.
He should. Yeah, he had.
But real quick, speak a little bit of Portuguese. Talk about Jesus or art or football in Portuguese for a minute, and I'll just listen. See what I can do.
The pressure.
Oh, here, I'll ask you a question. You answer it in Portuguese. How about that?
Dale.
Okay. What's your favorite project you've done at DPS recently? Answer it in Portuguese. Por favor. Português, por favor.
So many, muitos projetos. I started in English. I'm just multilingual,
Just talk.
Eu acho que o projeto preferido foi projeto pro Radiant Church que eu fiz a semana passada, criando 3 logos diferentes.
Yeah.
You understand?
Eu entendo.
Você entende.
Sim.
E colocando eles dentro de mock-ups. Não sei como falar mock-up em português.
Não sei.
Você sabe?
Sim.
E eu coloquei 3 mock-ups, 3 logos dentro de mock-ups para apresentar para o cliente. Eu acho que foi um dos projetos que eu gostei mais.
And how many we have? Is it 4 Brazilians or 5 that we have?
Temos Sam, Vitor,
Rodrigo,
Ana, Lucas.
Chamo Lucas.
Abner. 6.
Sim.
6 brasileiros.
Okay. Obviously, and now Spanish is your first language, so
Sí.
it's like there's no point, but...
Yo hablo español.
Sí. Yo también.
Tu español tú tienes como 60-70%.
¿En serio?
Sí, claro.
Eres amable.
Sí. Tú llegas al restaurante, quiero tacos, quiero birria.
Sí.
Pero tú no hables las palabras malas, por favor.
Okay. It's a deal. I won't.
Well, it's just like I feel like every time you're learning a new language with like on the street and stuff, they always teach you the bad words, you know.
Also, even us church kids, you would teach me all the bad words. We won't say any of them. We never use bad words.
No.
All we say is, yo amo Jesús.
Sí. Mi
claro.
Dios, mi rey, te amo. Amén. Gloria a Dios.
So dumb. Okay, let me see what else I got for you. Ooh, this is a good one. Where do you see art and design going in culture and in the faith space?
That's a loaded question. I'd say in the church space, I think we're going for a more holistic approach to design. I think in the church space, like I mentioned earlier, I used to think that like a sermon series graphic was like the most important graphic, right? And that's not to say that they're not important. But I think one approach that we're taking within DPS is creating a holistic brand, right? Or a style that could be timeless, that can be used in multiple different use cases, that can be consistent throughout your brand from the moment that someone sees it online, but then they come in house and that brand is consistent throughout the lobby and throughout, the flyers. I think we're at DPS and even some of our clients, and we've even started suggesting this or pointing in that direction of, hey, let's create a holistic, timeless brand for you. And I think within the church we're going down that route. I think a lot of it in the past was it was because of like social media trends and what was happening in the past. But I think the church in general is moving towards a more holistic design or visual identity for their community, something that feels timeless, something that can work in multiple different spaces or use cases. And so I think that's where we're where we're headed, or at least what we believe is the future of the church. And yeah, we love it.
As it comes to cultural design, I learned so much from you and Rodrigo and Quincy. Shout out Quincy, everybody else from our team who knows so much more about design than I just love what you all do. But I know you bring up Virgil a lot. You brought it up a lot internally, talking about like structure and where design is going. But when you look at where the church is artistically, and it's not to say that the church is wrong or bad, but understanding a lot of churches, it's tough to keep up, which is literally why we exist, to help churches tell the most beautiful story with world-class art. You think about where the culture is going artistically, and you think about where the church is going artistically. How do you feel like the church, whether they use DPS or not, can take art further and not just be copying culture, but doing something innovative and beautiful?
Yeah, that's a loaded question. But I think it just comes down to authenticity and being genuine and being who you are. And I think that is the best form of creative expression. I think for a long time the church was following culture or was following trends. And yeah, trends are great, but they're not timeless. Mm-hmm. And so I believe that the true expression of who you are can be translated creatively in multiple different ways, not just through design, but through film, through storytelling, through generosity, through community. And I mean, we talk to churches all the time, and we tell them like, design should only be like 20 or 30% of what you show. The rest needs to be you, your community, your vision. And I think that it's about that, like a genuine creative expression of who they are in multiple different ways. Not just, it doesn't have to be about static design. It could be about multiple different things. It could be about the experience that they have, in-house or within a service, to their online experience, to the events and stuff like that.
When you talk a little bit, and I would like to get practical. Yeah. Something we've been saying a lot to churches that onboard or that we've served for a long time, talking specifically about curating online YouTube or social media platforms, TikTok, Instagram, even a little bit of web development. We've been trying to help, and not that everyone necessarily is so far off, but think through, okay, how are you showcasing photography and video that's of high quality, and then making design kind of to uplift on occasion. Right. Mm-hmm. Something that you say a lot is curating a mosaic of work. Mm-hmm. And I think you and I have been talking about this a lot. The concept of, if you build an enduring brand, typically you're not changing the look and feel all the time. And so if you're sitting down today, if I were just you could be a lot more than just, but if you're sitting down with a creative director or a lead pastor or comms director, creative pastor, executive pastor at a church that might be watching this or listening to this and thinking, what are some practical things I could do about the art process at my community, or the way we curate something? Maybe they're not ready to jump on a DPS, or they can't afford it, or it's not the right time. But what practical tips would you give to someone in seat trying to figure out how to curate art and build process for it at their church?
Yeah, it's different for everyone, and everyone's going to have, there's going to be an answer for for each use case, because I think that is ultimately our heart at DPS. Is like hearing out what are your actual needs, where do you want to go, where do you want to be, but on a practical level, I think it's alignment with the vision, of your community, of your church, and then from there bringing it down and seeing how are we going to execute that vision, right? What resources do we have in house? What resources can we contract, or what volunteers or staff members, and then create a team around that, right? Create a team, whether it's contracting out or in-house, and the ultimate goal is to help execute that vision in a creative way, and it's going to look different for everyone else. We have churches that are, more heavily on the design side, and some are more heavily on the photography side. And like you mentioned, the design just enhances it. But I think a lot of it is, I think alignment of vision for your community creatively, and investing in creativity. I think creativity is important, and I think the church needs to invest time and resources into it, especially and even for like younger people, even for like our generation and younger. Like you mentioned, they're all on social media, they're on YouTube, and so investing in that, I think, is going to go a long way. And yeah,
you mentioned it at the end, and I love that answer about time. Something I hear you recommend a lot is just to expand the timeline for what you're going to do. So if you have a project, just practically, if you have a project and you need it in a couple of weeks, how can you start to get in a rhythm of thinking to extend the timeline, to give your creative team or whoever you're working with? And I know this is not necessarily easy. We have some awesome clients who typically still ask for things last minute, but can you give some practical tips on how you can structure out your creative team to give them more time so your art can be curated at a higher level and you don't burn out your team?
Yeah, we always say, and we tell we always tell our clients, good art takes time. And so when you rush something, there's so many different variables, and something could go wrong, something could go great, but good art in general, it takes time. It takes investment on both sides. And so on a practical level, what we tell our clients is, hey, that there are 3 to 4 extremely important events for your community, and we all know those. It's Easter, Father's Day, Mother's Day, I'm going to name
Christmas.
More. Christmas, VBS, summer youth camps. But most churches, they plan their fiscal year before the year even starts. So they already know what's going to be happening. And so set a priority to get ahead. And, Christmas is 6 months from now, right? But put it on your calendar. Okay, September, we're going to sit Pastor down for 30 minutes and, Pastor, what's your vision for Christmas? Yeah. And do you have an idea of what you're wanting the space to look, or what's the feel of it? And start discovering internally. So then, you have that, those 2 or 3 months before Christmas arrives to help project, to help strategize, and to help, and that's in general. So what we tell our churches all the time is like, you already have an idea of what is coming or what events. Take time, take 2 or 3 months to set creative vision for it, understand what deliverables you're going to want. If you have a team of volunteers, how are they going to use them, etc.
That's great. So you and I both have offices we can go to, but a lot of the time, especially over the last 4 years, we are 100% the work from home dads.
Yes.
And I think there's so much beauty to it, and there's more great than bad for sure.
Oh, for
but there's
sure.
Obviously the ups and downs. Can you talk a little bit about what it's been like to be a work from home dad?
Oh man, it's the best. I'm so thankful. it's fun, but sometimes you got to get out of the office. Like you got to get out of the house. Especially so at the when Stella, my 3.5-year-old, was like 1 or 2, it was cool. Like I could stay at the house, I could stay at on the couch or whatever, or be in my like home office, and I did have a home office space. But now that she's a toddler and she's running around making noise, so I can't be on a call with a client and like hear my toddler in the back, dad, you know, like screaming her lungs out or like banging on the door. But not only that, like I feel that I can go to an office space, and what would take me 8 hours to do at home because of all the distractions, someone knocking on my door, my toddler, or this or that, I can get it accomplished in like 5 to 6 hours if I'm in a space and I can just focus. So I think it's a balance. It's a balance of both, and I also believe that taking, you know, if you're done with your day, and this is a part of our culture as well, is one of the things that I love working for DPS and our culture, is that if you're done with your day and you finish the projects that you needed to finish and you turn them in, like spend the rest of the day with your fam, go to the park, and you know, so it's so special, and I don't take it for granted, the fact that we get to work from home, or we have this hybrid, or we get to work at, you know, a coffee shop, or have our own studio space. It's absolutely amazing. What has it been like for you?
Mostly great. By far, mostly great. I think there's just those moments where I think walking out of the office and your kids are there and they're so excited to see you that it's like, oh my gosh, this is the greatest thing of all time. Or being able to make yourself lunch. One of my favorite things is when we have a call in the afternoon, we just get back from lunch and have a little coffee, and you don't have to go anywhere. Yeah. So amazing. And I think getting up in the morning and getting ready and just going to work at home is so nice. I think at times the feeling I get of wanting to have an office space where we all are, because the beauty of the work remote environment and work from home we have is we have teammates everywhere in all these time zones and clients in all these time zones. Yeah. Now I can't even keep track of them. I was on a call with a client the other day or somebody trying to book something and I got the time wrong. It's like 6 hours, whatever.
That always happens.
Oh yeah. We're getting better. Google's there
Central
for us.
Standard Time. It's like, where are you?
Australia time, UK time, Barcelona. Is Barcelona and UK on the same?
No, UK is an hour before Barcelona time.
And then Sao Paulo and Floripa?
They're somewhere in the middle.
Anyway, I say that to say that it's been so beautiful. However, at times, this is what I need. And I think it's also made me value, like even today, us working with Esme at a couple coffee shops, planning 100%. And strategizing, or those times when we get together with the team. Yeah. Just getting together with Capria and Rodrigo and Esme in Palm Desert a few months ago. It makes these even more special, and I crave them more.
And I believe it's needed. Yeah. Like a completely remote work environment, in my opinion, I don't think is the best. I think like the way that we do it, you and I, we live closer together, so sometimes we see each other every month and we're intentional about working in the same space. But as a team, I think it's important to, every quarter have moments where you're in the same room, you're bringing vision, you're, talking about the future, you're also working out problems or things it's difficult to work on when you're on a screen. Yeah. And then also just culture, like hanging out with the people you work, and having coffee and laughing and all that stuff it's so much fun. We've had so much fun the times that we've gotten to work together. And sometimes we've been able to work in some of the churches that are clients of ours, and that makes it even more special. We've worked at Carmel, and so it's so special.
It's the best. Okay, let me see if I had any more. I wrote out so many
questions.
I want to ask you one of the ones that is deep. Let's see where we go. Okay, is a good one.
Am I supposed to be asking you questions or asking you for answers? I realize I've been talking this whole time.
Well, I'm asking you the questions. Ask me any questions.
I'm the guest on your.
Well, we're on this together, but I think it's fun for me to ask you. Do you have any questions for me?
No. Go.
What questions do you have, man?
So how tall are you?
5'9" by God's grace. Okay, you grew up a PK and you still love Jesus.
Still love Jesus. Still love my dad, my mom, who are still pastors. Love them so much.
How has the way you grew up influenced what you're doing now in regards to specifically what you and I, the reason we get up and do what we do at DPS, which is we believe the story of Jesus is the most beautiful story ever told, and it is deserving of world-class art. How does growing up in the church, and you never really had, well, I guess you had a little bit of a rebellious stage where you're doing graffiti and getting arrested.
Yeah. I mean, you put it like that. Yeah, you were... Growing up in the church space, growing up a PK, I think has been such a blessing for what we do. Mm-hmm. And it's not to say that if you didn't grow up as a PK or in the church space that you cannot do what we do or serve the clients that we serve, but it's been it's been a gift and a blessing. And like you mentioned, I don't know if every PK, but I think from the stories that we've heard, I'm sure a lot of PKs have gone through that rebellious phase and have come back. And I did go through that rebellious phase, in high school and doing the things I did. And but I came back, was a youth pastor, was a creative director, associate pastor at my parents' church. And we do what we do today because we have a genuine love for the church, for the local church, for what it represents, for what they do, and we mean it. We even serve at our local church still, right? And so I don't take it for granted. I see it as such a blessing that I grew up as a PK, and I think it does, and it has 100% influenced who I am and how I serve the churches that are our clients. And sometimes I think I even see it more than just a creative thing. I have such a heart for who they are and what they're doing that it also impacts the way I design. Because I see, okay, I'm creating a sermon series for X church. I see it more than just a sermon series, because I know the impact that sermon series is going to have, one, to the local church, to the people that are there, but also to the people that will view it online, and the spiritual impact that it's going to have. And so on a practical level, I take every design or every piece of creative direction that we do for a church. I sometimes spiritualize it a lot more, and you and I always go back and forth of to answer your question, it's been a blessing and a gift to be able to have grown up that way, and now being able to do what I do. You're so serious.
Oh, bro. Jesus has had us on a wild journey.
Yeah. A very special one, yeah.
So many times we're like, what in the world are we doing?
Yeah. But we're going on 5 years.
Yeah.
Shout out Grace, 5.
Got a tattoo, man. Let's go.
But yeah, what we get to do every single day is a true blessing. It really is. Like, we always communicate this to our churches. It's not just about the art. It really isn't. At the end of the day, it's about telling the most beautiful story, Jesus. And we get to do that. We get to do that in a creative way. And we get to share our expertise, our knowledge, and we get to work with an amazing team that helps actually curate and create that from the ground up. And we work with amazing comms directors and creative directors and lead pastors, and we have the beautiful opportunity to help execute their vision and tell the story of Jesus. And so, it's truly special.
Every once in a while, I'll look at somebody's project channel, whether it be yours or Rodrigo or Anna or Vitor, whoever, and I'll be blown away, honestly. I'm like, dude.
Yeah.
It's interesting because, as I kind of alluded to, there's been so many times where we have experienced, and I think I could probably speak for you, but you can speak for yourself, the highest of highs vocationally in DPS and 100% the lowest of lows.
Yeah.
Some crazy moments. And what keeps me going at the end of the day when I look at the art is like, we are doing this because we feel like we're supposed to.
Yeah.
And Jesus is just that beautiful. There's no story like this, man. We used to say this in the beginning. We put it on a lot of our Instagram posts. Remember, I had that one-liner, and you would just kind of throw it into Photoshop. We throw it on Instagram. But if the story of Jesus were a work of fiction, it would still be the greatest story ever told.
Yep.
And we're betting everything that it's not fiction, that it's
Yeah.
real, that this carpenter, rabbi, Jesus, walked on this planet. And today, whether we like it or not, in 2024, if you want to reach people specifically in the United States of America, the UK, Australia, and I think across even, Spanish-speaking countries, Portuguese-speaking countries, the primary way you will reach people is online.
Yeah.
And there's not a lot of people I think would argue against it. And so the onus is on us, followers of the way, to showcase it with a beauty and a consistency that I think not everyone is equipped to do.
Yeah.
Which is why we're here. Which is why we're willing to work through the heartache and the sacrifice.
Yeah. We have such an amazing team.
Oh, bro. It's the
Such
best team
amazing
in the
clients, too.
Yeah.
Shout out to all of our clients.
Yeah.
That trust us.
Seriously.
Yeah, that trust us, that believe in us. Yeah. So special.
Yeah. I specifically would want to say shout out to Carmel Church.
Yeah.
Mom and Dad, thank you. When we first had the idea, I went to my mom and dad.
Beta.
Yeah. And I was like, Mom, Dad, we'd love to help you. And they let us do it. And then I still remember, shout out to Trinity Church in New York, Taylor and Kristen.
Yep.
And
Trinity,
also
New York.
Libby Abston while you were contracting there. I remember I was in my office in Los Angeles at the time, started the studio, had a few team members.
Shout
were
out
doing
North
some
Hollywood.
stuff. Shout out NoHo. Oh my goodness. And I remember I had my head down on my desk. The only client we had was my parents' community that they were leading. And I had spent my entire savings on all the technology and setting everything up. Had 25 grand to my name and just bet it all. And wasn't making any money for like 4 or 5 months and had high rent and 2 babies and needed more groceries. And I just said to God, I'm like, God, I need you to bring me a client. I don't know how to do it. And I opened my eyes. Kid you not. You remember this. I called you right after, like flipping out. Opened my eyes and opened my email and had an email from Libby and the team with Taylor and Kristen at Trinity. And then we had a client. And then after that, quickly, Heights Church. Shout out to you guys.
Yep.
Man. Prescott,
And both
Arizona.
of those are still our clients today.
Both of them.
Trinity, New York is our longest, well, Carmel.
Yeah.
But Trinity, New York was
Non-family.
our non-family, non-beta tester.
Yeah.
And they're still with us, and they're absolutely amazing.
And Heights Church.
Yeah.
And what Arizona people say is Prescott, but I still say Prescott.
And in my Latino voice, I used to say Prescott, or
Prescott.
Prescott.
It was Prescott.
But now I have Prescott.
Yeah. Like a true Zoni.
Shout out David and Nick.
Yeah. And Pastor John. Their team is
Yeah.
incredible.
So awesome.
It's the best.
Thank you for trusting us.
Yeah. Thank you to all of our clients if you're watching this.
Yeah.
Seriously. It's crazy. Crazy how far we've come. We
best.
exist. Let me see if I have any more questions. Do you have anything that you want to cover before we play FIFA and record it?
Oh, I'm scared, man. You've been so good at
I know.
FIFA lately.
We could talk a little bit about our FIFA our FIFA rivalry. How many total games would you say we played over the last 12 years?
Over 30, 40 maybe.
Oh, dude.
Probably more.
That's such a low number. We will play like 7 in a day.
Yeah, it's true. Okay, my numbers are off.
Yeah.
But it's pretty even. We're tied.
Yeah. I feel like it's got to be.
We've gone on sprints. Like I'm really good in one. Like like at some point, and then you're like, I got to change my team, and then
Yes.
you change it, and then you start winning, and you get really good, and then I'm like, dude, I got to change my team.
Okay, can I just say, how would you come up with 30 or 40? Like, we probably played 30 or 40 in the last year.
It's true, yeah.
Like, that was a really bad answer, Josh.
That was a bad answer, yeah.
But if
Cut this out, Matt. Cut this
Matt,
out.
Can you edit this?
Matt, can you edit, like, on top of
Okay.
my voice, say 80, 100, 1,000?
I think very legitimately, every time we play, we probably play 4 or 5 games
It's
at
true.
least.
Yeah, it's true.
And we probably played,
I'm bad at numbers.
besides when you went to Brazil, that was our biggest hiatus
Yeah.
for 2 years. We probably would at least play 2 or 3 times a year over the last 10 years.
Yeah.
So 2 or 3 times 4 on the low
It
end.
started in
Over 10.
Escondido.
Yeah.
Shout out Escondido.
Yeah. Good times. We got to be, what's the math on that? So 20? We don't want to do the math?
I'm gonna just let you do the calculation because I started off at 30, and that's like what we've done in like the last 4 months.
Well, last time you came to West Phoenix, Buckeye, Arizona.
Buckeye, shout out Verado.
Yeah, let's go. We played 10 games over 2 days.
Yeah.
So why don't we can hop on. Who are you going to use?
I'll probably go with Man City.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
they're,
we're gonna
they're a pretty stacked team, but yeah, I'll go with Man City regardless of who you choose.
So I'm going to be this guy. We're going to play FIFA 23 because I don't have FIFA 24 yet because my son is a big Messi and Mbappe fan, and he does not want to play FIFA 24 because they're no longer on the same team. So I'm going to play most likely with PSG, but maybe I'll look around and decide on maybe Liverpool.
You've done
We'll see.
very, very well with PSG.
It's
so
kinda cheating.
just so it can no, it's okay. Just so it could be a challenge, go with PSG. Just go with PSG.
I might have
I'm
to do
kind of
Liverpool
nervous,
just for that.
but go with PSG.
We'll see. Let's
Yeah.
play. Jugamos.
Let's do it.
Dame la pelota.
Dame la pelota.
Every time you steal it from me.
Dame la bola.
Let's go. Well,
Thanks for having me, man.
bro.
Let's
do
play.
this more.
Yeah.
Jugamos. Hey, Abe, thanks for letting us use this space. This is my brother, Jesse, shooting. Get
Hello,
him. This
hello.
is Matt, our producer. Also doubles. Wait, Jess, you got to get Matt, though. Oh, you got Abe. Thank you. Oh, this is my guy, Matt. Matt and I go way back. Actually, Matt, you and Esme have been some of our best friends forever, and you got married in this building, and I was supposed to come and be a groomsman, but I had just got a job at PushPay like a month before, and they wouldn't give me the time off. PushPay, thank you. Changed my life. Wouldn't have started DPS without you, but I didn't get to attend the wedding.
Shout out to PushPay.
Yeah. I had to get my sales, man. Had to get them in.
Shout out Overflow.
Shout out Overflow Vance Rush, the GOAT. Well, Abe, what you got for us, bro? ¿Qué piensas? He said it's the best podcast he's ever witnessed. I'm his best
No
friend.
mientas, no mientas.
If you sign with us, he said he'll give you personally $300,000. It's great. All right, jugamos.